Hey everyone, and welcome back to the distance learning version of our course. Today in this lecture, we're going to talk about the mind-body problem. So this lecture and next lecture are about the mind-body problem. Next lecture, we're going to talk about dualism, which is one of the two competing views in the mind-body problem. Today, we're going to talk about what the problem is and talk about physicalism, which is the other competing view here. But this lecture and Tuesday's lecture will both be about the mind-body problem. So, first things first, what is the mind-body problem? Well, the mind-body problem is, as simply and as broadly as possible, it's just explaining how the mind relates to the body. So you have a mind, right? Minds are thinking things with thoughts and beliefs and worries and emotions and feelings. Mental objects or mental things are what minds are, and there are thoughts and all this sort of mental stuff. That's sort of all on the mind side here. And there are also bodies. You have a physical body. It's made of particles. It moves around. It has mass and shape and a location in space and time. And there are, tables and chairs that are also, they're not human bodies or animal bodies, but they are bodies in some sense of the word. They are physical things out there in space. And so the question here is, how does the mind relate to the body? Is the mind a physical thing like the body? Is it part of the body? Is your brain your mind? Is your mind and your brain the same thing? Or maybe like we talked about in the personal identity lecture, maybe the mind is something like a program your brain runs, or it's some sort of pattern of activity in your brain. Or is the mind something completely different? Is it like a soul, an immaterial, non-physical thing that can survive after bodily death and all that kind of stuff? Are mental states and events and mental properties, mental phenomena like thoughts and beliefs, are those just physical patterns of activity in your brain? Or are they something different? Are they something over and above? That's the phrase that gets used in the literature a lot. Over and above. Is the mind something over and above the body? Are mental phenomena like thoughts and emotions and conscious experience, are those something over and above the physical stuff in the world? Do minds and thoughts and conscious experience and feelings add something extra to the world besides the physical stuff that we can see and touch and feel? Or are they just part of the physical stuff? Are mental phenomena like thoughts and minds part of the physical world, or are they something in addition to it? And that's the mind-body problem, is figuring that out, giving an answer to that question. And these things seem to interact, which is part of what makes this difficult. Your mind, your mental stuff, clearly seems to cause your body to move around. When you feel a pain, that's an experience. That's a conscious mental experience in your mind. And it looks like it causes you to move. If you feel a hot stove, it's the feeling, the pain that causes you to pull your hand away. It's not a purely sort of body reaction. It involves your mind in some way. So explaining how that works is going to require some tough philosophical thinking. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, the mind-body problem, the problem of explaining how the mind relates to the body. So, the really basic question we want to ask is whether or not the mind is a physical thing. And if you answer yes, if you say yes, the mind is a physical thing, it's part of the physical world, mental phenomena like thoughts and emotions and conscious experience, those are all part of the physical world. Maybe your mind just is your brain, your thoughts and beliefs just are patterns of neurons firing in your brain, whatever. If you think your mind is part of the physical world, that it's a physical thing, then you are a physicalist. Answering yes to the question, is the mind a physical thing, gives us physicalism. Historically, it was called materialism, but no one really uses that term anymore very often. Physicalism is the preferred term because it turned out the stuff physics studied is weird. Photons don't have mass. Maybe photons arguably aren't matter in some sense. So materialism is kind of, it's not the preferred terminology. So physicalism. The mind is part of the world as studied by physics and the physical sciences. That's physicalism. It says there's only one kind of thing in the world, physical things. Minds and thoughts are all physical. The other answer we can give to the question, is the mind a physical thing, is no. Answering no gives us dualism. If you say no, the mind is not a physical thing. Mental phenomena like thoughts and experiences, conscious experiences, those are something over and above the physical stuff. Those are an additional thing in the world on top of the physical stuff in the world. That's dualism. And dualists say that there are two kinds of things in the world, hence the name dual. Dual is in two. Mental things and physical things. And mental things are not physical, and physical things are not mental. So they're two separate things in the world, two separate kinds of things. There are minds and thoughts and ideas and conscious experience. And then there's like particles and matter and photons and physical bodies. And clearly they interact in some way. Your mind and your body are clearly connected. Your mind can control your body in a way it can't control other bodies or tables and chairs and things. So they clearly are connected in some way, but they are fundamentally different things. That's dualism. And so physicalism says that everything that exists is physical and that there is nothing over and above the physical. So what we can take, we can take the word physical to mean different things. What it means to say that everything in the world is physical is itself kind of a controversial issue. But what we want to say is something like fundamentally not mental. Fundamentally the kind of stuff studied by physics in the physical sciences. Now, it turned out that saying that leads to some tricky questions, but it's usually sort of assumed that we have a pretty good idea of what it means for something to be physical. You may not be able to define it, but you know it when you see it, is the thought here. So physicalism says that there's nothing except the physical stuff. Mental things are not separate and in addition to physical stuff. They're part of the physical world as studied by the physical sciences. And dualism says that mental things are fundamentally different, which means that once you've explained all of the physical features of the world, all the particles, all the fundamental forces, all of the, astrophysics type of questions, once you've explained all the physical features of the world, there is still something left over that needs to be explained. And that is all of the mental stuff. So physicalists think that once you've explained all the physical stuff in the world, once you've explained all the particles and forces and physical bodies and movements, you've explained everything there is to explain. That's all there is to the world. That is all that is needed to explain the world. But dualists think there's something extra that has to be explained besides all the physical stuff. And that's the mental stuff, how mental things behave, how one mental event leads to another mental event. Physicalists think that if you know how all of the physical events cause later events, if you know all of those sort of causal laws, all the physical laws of the universe, then you will understand how one event leads to another. But dualists think that there are mental events that are separate and need to be explained separately. But, and that's the view that Descartes takes. Descartes, in the readings we looked at, is a dualist. He thinks that the mind is fundamentally separate from the body, that it is a distinct entity, and that what we are as persons is an immaterial soul. That we have a mind that is separate from the body, could exist without the body, and the body could exist without the mind. They are completely different and, at least in theory, separable entities. But Princess Elisabeth, who we read, who was a princess at the time of Descartes, which was in the 1600s, she asked Descartes, if the soul of a human being is only a thinking substance, how can it affect the bodily spirits in order to bring about voluntary actions? That's her main question. That's her sort of deep question that she wants to ask Descartes. If a mind isn't a physical thing, then how does a mind cause a body to move? How does a mind causally affect a body? How does your mind control your body if it isn't physical too? Because it looks like our minds cause our bodies to move. We feel a pain and we pull our hand away. We have a thought like, I feel thirsty, I want a drink, and then we reach for a beverage, and then we take a drink. That reaching for the beverage and taking a drink is a physical movement. That's a physical event. Your physical body is moving in space. But it looks like it's caused by a mental event. You having a thought, a desire. Something in your mind caused your body to move. But if your mind is not a physical thing, if your mind isn't physical, it's not part of the physical world, how does it cause your body to move? How could it cause your body to move? Because your body is a physical thing with mass and weight, and minds, thoughts, desires, these mental things, if they're not physical, then they don't have mass and weight. They can't apply forces like the electromagnetic force or gravitational forces or anything like that. So how could they cause a body to move? And this is the key problem. Princess Elisabeth was the first person I know of to point it out in 1643, I believe. But it's still the key problem faced by dualism today, is how do mental states, mental events like thoughts and desires, cause bodily movements, which are physical events? Because if the mental states aren't physical, then it's not clear how they could cause physical objects to move. Because to move a physical object, you need to apply a physical force to it. You need to push it, or gravity has to be acting on it, or an electromagnetic force from a magnet or something you can use to push a little piece of metal along, or pull a little piece of metal along. And that's all great. It's well understood. Physical causation. One physical object applies a physical force to another. But how a non-physical mind, how a thought that doesn't have weight or mass or electrical charge or any of that kind of physical stuff, how it could cause your body to move is a tough question. And it's not clear how that's supposed to work. And this is still the main problem for dualists today, like I said. And Princess Elisabeth's sort of main thought and question and argument has been developed, and now it's called the causal argument for physicalism, or sometimes it's called the causal closure argument for physicalism. And the argument goes something like this. Look, mental states cause physical effects. That's premise one. We all agree mental states, mental stuff like thoughts and desires cause physical effects. Your mind, things in your mind cause your body to move, right? That's all there is to this premise. Your mind can make your body move. We should all be on board with that. Whatever minds are, they definitely make bodies move. But our second premise is going to be that every physical effect has a physical cause, right? And that seems to be the case. Physical effects have physical causes. That just means that things don't happen completely at random. I mean, okay, maybe in quantum mechanics they do, or whatever. But in the macroscopic physical world, things don't happen at random. Things have causes. There are causal patterns. And if there were these events that didn't have physical causes, we would be able to find them, it seems. And science has not found them. When your arm moves and reaches for the glass, that's caused by stuff happening in your brain. That's caused by neural patterns, neural activity in your brain that leads to your motor cortex sending signals that cause your arm to move and pick up the beverage. So it looks like the physical movement of you reaching for the beverage and picking it up already has a cause. And it's a physical cause. It's some pattern of neural activity in your brain that causes you to reach for the glass or reach for the beverage. So we all agree that your mental state, your mental event, your thought, your desire for a glass, that causes you to reach for the glass. We all are on board with that. You have a thought, you have a desire, I want to take a drink, and that causes you to reach your arm out and pick up the glass. And just from scientific evidence, we know that when you reach for the glass, that has a physical cause. Your pattern of neurons firing. And so, if the mental cause isn't physical, if the mental event, if the desire you have, the thought that causes you to reach for the glass, isn't the neuron pattern, isn't the physical cause, then it looks like there are two causes, each of which is sufficient on its own. So you have two causes that make you reach for the glass, make you reach for the beverage. Your desire, which is a mental thing, and this pattern of neuron activity in your brain, which is a physical thing. And so if those are different, if those aren't the same thing, then there are two causes for your effect, for your behavior. There are two causes. But that means that it's overdetermined, right? That means that there are more causes in the world than we need in order to explain things. And that's usually taken to be a bad sign. That's for Occam's razor type reasons. If you know Occam's razor, it's a principle that says not to add entities unnecessarily to your picture of the world, or to make your picture of the world as simple as possible, make your theory as simple as possible. There are different ways of formulating it. But they all agree, or they all would agree, that adding multiple seemingly competing causes for every voluntary bodily movement, every time you move your body on purpose, there's a mental cause, your desire, your thought, your plan, whatever you want to call it, to move your arm or legs or to go somewhere, and a physical cause, the neuron activity in your brain. So you're going to have two causes all the time. Every single action is overdetermined, is the technical term for this. Overdetermined. Every single action you take has more causes than it should. And that's a problem, especially when we don't understand or we don't know or have a good answer for the question of how the mental cause does any causing at all, right? And so, physicalists have argued that this means we should get rid of the mental cause from our picture. The correct thing to do here, physicalists argue, is to simplify our picture of the world by just letting the mental cause, the mental event, the thought, the desire, the plan, let it just be the neural patterns. Your neuron pattern, the pattern of neurons firing in your brain, that is the cause. That is the mental cause. That is your thought. Your thought just is the neurons firing. There's nothing more to it than that. That's a simpler, cleaner picture of the world that makes more sense once we think about it. Because if we have to say that the mind isn't physical, then we have to say that there's already a physical cause for everything the mind allegedly does in the world. And we know how the physical cause makes things happen. We know how a pattern of neurons firing in your brain causes signals to get sent to your arm that cause your muscles to twitch. Like, we have a pretty good understanding of that from biology and neuroscience. We've kind of got that down. We understand how that works. But how a purely mental, non-physical mind causes your physical arm to move, that's not well understood at all, and it doesn't look like it could be well understood. How could that happen? So given that there's this seemingly intractable problem, meaning this unanswerable question on the dualist picture, how does a mind, a non-physical mind, cause your physical body to move? There's this unanswerable question on the dualist picture, physicalists say. And so it's better to just give up dualism and become physicalist, because dualism has this unanswerable question, and unanswerable questions are red flags for a view, is the thought here. That if you have this unanswerable question, this how does a mind cause a physical body to move? If you haven't been able to answer that question for hundreds of years, and you don't even have an idea of how you could ever answer that question, and if giving up dualism means not having that question anymore, physicalists think, all right, be physicalist then. Give up dualism, because the unanswerable question means that there's just something wrong with dualism. That we shouldn't have to have this picture of the world where there's one sufficient and well understood cause for why your arm moves, but then there's also this other separate cause and we have no idea how it works. Physicalists say no. Then you're just putting this ghost in the machine. It's just there. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't make a difference to how you behave. Adding a non-physical mind to your picture of the world doesn't change our predictions for how people behave or act or what they do or say. So it's not clear why we would want it in the picture. And physicalists think we shouldn't want it in the picture. So physicalists say the fact that we can't explain how minds cause your body to move, how a non-physical mind would cause your body to move, that means we don't want non-physical minds in our picture of the world. They add problems because they add these unanswerable questions about how a non-physical thing can cause a physical body to move. So these non-physical minds cause problems in our picture of the world, and they don't provide any benefit because they don't help us explain how people move or think or talk or behave. It doesn't help us explain anything, because any effect that a mind could have in the world, anything that a mind could help explain about the world, is already explained by neurons firing. And so it doesn't provide any benefit. So a non-physical mind, according to physicalists, will cause problems but won't provide benefits. So we should purge them from our pictures of the world. And so physicalists think that we should say that all there is to a mind is a brain. Your neurons firing in certain ways, that's all there is to having a mind. That's all there is to thinking. That's all there is to thought, to feeling, to experience. That's it. That's the physicalist picture. But, as we will talk about next class, dualists think that there are things that you need a non-physical mind to explain. And that's conscious experience, the nature of conscious experience. What it's like for you to see red is different than any physical facts about red. And that's what we're going to talk about next lecture. But until then, stay safe out there. If you have any questions, please let me know.